Have you ever wondered why some truths are not just ignored, but systematically buried? Not because they are lies, not because they are disproven, but because they are simply too uncomfortable for society to bear. The story we are told is beautiful, that men and women are not just equal in value, but identical in nature, that any differences between them are the residue of outdated traditions, ready to be erased by education, reform, and willpower. But reality whispers something else, a quiet, persistent contradiction that shows itself in behavior, desire, conflict, and instinct. Despite endless efforts to smooth over the differences, the tension remains. Despite the speeches, the campaigns, the legislation, it persists. It is easier, safer, to pretend that nature can be overwritten by culture, that if we just believe hard enough, if we just legislate strongly enough, the deep divides will disappear. But some voices, rare, hated, and feared, have refused to look away. One of them comes from centuries ago, and even today, his words are treated as too dangerous to face directly. Arthur Schopenhauer did not whisper to comfort the soul. He spoke with a voice like iron, cutting through the illusions that society clings to. His view of women was not romantic, not hopeful, and certainly not politically correct. It was brutal, raw, and rooted in what he saw as the undeniable truths of human nature. Today, we will step across that forbidden line. Today, we will uncover the uncomfortable truths about women, love, survival, and instinct. Truths that society tried to bury, but that never stopped shaping the world around us. Arthur Schopenhauer was born into a world already laced with disillusionment. In 1788, amid the crumbling certainties of old Europe, he entered a family marked by ambition, wealth, and private despair. His father, a merchant obsessed with status and security, exposed young Arthur to the harsh realities of commerce and politics. His mother, a celebrated writer, taught him the charm of appearances and the emptiness behind them. But it was not admiration or love that shaped Schopenhauer. It was abandonment. At 17, he lost his father to suicide. His mother, more concerned with literary fame than maternal duty, distanced herself from him soon after. Isolation, grief, and a growing disgust with shallow social rituals became the soil in which his philosophy took root. While other thinkers spoke of progress, enlightenment, and human perfectibility, Schopenhauer looked deeper and saw something darker. He saw that beneath the polished language of morality and love, human life was governed by primal forces, the will to survive, to dominate, to reproduce. He refused to paint humanity in flattering colors. He refused to comfort. In the landscape of philosophy, Schopenhauer stood like a lone mountain against the sky, unmoved, cold, and uncompromising. He believed that if truth was ugly, it was no less true, especially when it came to the nature of women, love, and human desire. He would not pretend. Schopenhauer was not merely a philosopher. He was a seer who dared to stare into the abyss and report back without blinking. A man who chose brutal clarity over beautiful deception. And in doing so, he offered not comfort, but an invitation to face what most would rather leave buried. Society teaches a comforting story, that men and women, though born into different bodies, are shaped by the same dreams, the same emotions, the same visions of love, that romantic harmony is not only possible, but inevitable, a perfect meeting of equals, destined for mutual understanding and endless connection. From songs to movies, from classrooms to political platforms, the message is clear. If men and women still misunderstand each other, it is not because they are fundamentally different, but because they have been taught to be. Erase the conditioning, we are told, and love will bloom naturally. But beneath this soothing narrative lies an older, harder reality, one that Arthur Schopenhauer, with brutal clarity, refused to deny. He argued that love is not a merging of souls, nor the triumph of emotional understanding. It is a biological strategy, an illusion conjured by nature to ensure survival, not happiness. What we call falling in love. The electric rush, the magnetic pull, is not a testament to spiritual unity. It is an evolutionary mirage designed to blind reason long enough for reproduction to occur. The emotional connection we so desperately seek is often a tactical dance of instinct, not a conscious union of minds. Men and women, Schopenhauer believed, are not walking toward each other across a bridge of perfect empathy. They are circling one another, drawn together by forces neither fully understands, each following an ancient script written long before conscious thought began. Romantic ideals, promise, transcendence. But instinct demands survival, and so we chase the dream of perfect love, unaware that the dream itself is part of the trap, a mechanism to bind us to nature's deeper, colder laws, laws that have no concern for happiness, fulfillment, or equality. What if the entire architecture of our romantic expectations, the soulmate myths, the fairy tales, the promises of eternal emotional symmetry, is not a road to liberation, but a beautifully decorated cage? What if, far from being the path to freedom, love as we imagine it is the most elegant form of captivity nature ever invented? Schopenhauer's question lingers, unsettling and unresolved. What if the love we seek does not free us, but uses us? When Arthur Schopenhauer looked into the heart of humanity, he did not see a symmetrical balance between the sexes. He saw a dark mirror, reflecting not ideals, but instincts. In Schopenhauer's eyes, women were not guided primarily by abstract reasoning, philosophical ambition, or the pursuit of universal truths. They were shaped by something older, something deeper, the relentless will to survive. Where men were often driven by restless creation, grand ideals, and distant conquests, women, he believed, were tuned to the immediate, the practical, the essential, emotional intelligence. That shimmering trait, so often praised today, was not, in Schopenhauer's view, a bridge to higher understanding. It was a survival tool, a finely tuned instrument, evolved to read danger, opportunity, and shifting power dynamics faster and more accurately than logic could ever hope to. Nature, he argued, had crafted women not as architects of new worlds, but as masters of adaptation within the existing one. While men built castles in the air, women learned to navigate storms on the ground. Men imagined new systems, women secured survival within the systems already in motion. There is no hatred in Schopenhauer's view, only brutal recognition. No demonization, no blame. Only the understanding that nature does not prioritize ideals, it prioritizes continuation. Society, even now, recoils from this portrait, because it undermines the modern myth that men and women are simply blank slates shaped by environment alone. It cuts against the grain of narratives that promise total interchangeability, that gender differences are superficial, correctable, erasable. Schopenhauer's view suggests something far more disquieting, that beneath every attempt to rewire society lies an ancient biological program that cannot be uninstalled, that our most celebrated differences, empathy, intuition, resilience, are not culturally assigned virtues, but evolutionary strategies born from millennia of survival, conflict, and necessity. This is why his ideas remain radioactive even today, not because they are crude or outdated, but because they strip away the comforting illusions we cling to about equality and understanding. To look through Schopenhauer's dark mirror is not to see a battlefield of oppressors and victims. It is to see nature itself at work, silent, patient, and utterly indifferent to our desires for fairness or harmony. And in that reflection, we are forced to confront a reality we would rather forget, that perhaps the very differences we celebrate or deny are not flaws to be fixed, but truths to be faced. For centuries, human beings have waged a quiet war against their own nature. We build cultures, philosophies, and political systems designed to tame the forces we dare not name. We teach ideals of equality, sameness, and limitless choice, believing that with enough effort, biology itself can be rewritten. But beneath every declaration of progress, instinct stirs, ancient, silent, and unmoved. Dating apps promise unlimited freedom, infinite combinations. Yet when the algorithms run their course, the old patterns re-emerge. Men, unconsciously or not, select for beauty, youth, and fertility, echoes of an ancient drive for reproduction. Women, whether acknowledged or denied, select for signs of security, strength, and status, the silent imperatives of survival. Social media, that great amplifier of human desire, tells the same story. Men display their achievements, success, fitness, dominance. Women, knowingly or not, present beauty, vitality, and emotional resonance. Behind the curated images and hashtags lies a play millions of years old, merely performed now under brighter lights. In career dynamics and family structures, the tension sharpens. While culture insists that men and women are interchangeable, instinct resists. Men often tie identity to ambition, conquest, and external achievement. Women, despite opportunities and freedoms hard-won, often remain attuned to stability, relationships, and security, values written not by society, but by survival itself. Arthur Schopenhauer saw this contradiction long before our modern crises. He warned that culture could bend, soften, and polish, but it could never truly sever its leash to biology. At best, culture can create illusions of change. At worst, it builds towers of expectation atop foundations that cannot hold. And when those towers inevitably crack, when relationships crumble, when resentment festers, when loneliness spreads, we do not question the illusions. We blame each other. We declare society broken, gender norms toxic, traditions outdated. But what if the fault does not lie in outdated norms or insufficient progress? What if the real tragedy is not society's failure to reshape human nature, but its arrogant belief that it ever could? The war between biology and culture rages quietly, invisibly, not on battlefields, but in bedrooms, offices, and lonely hearts. And no matter how loudly we proclaim our enlightenment, instinct watches, patient, undefeated, waiting for the moment when illusions fall away, and nature reclaims its silent throne. The cost of illusion is never paid immediately. It accumulates silently, gathering interest, until the debt comes due in ways we cannot ignore. Today, we see the cracks spreading across the foundations of modern relationships. Divorce rates soar, not because people have suddenly become cruel or careless, but because expectations built on illusions inevitably collapse. The promise that love would solve itself, that mutual understanding was natural and effortless, has been broken again and again on the rocks of unmet instinctual needs. Loneliness, once the exception, is now a global epidemic. In an age of endless communication, connection feels more elusive than ever. Men and women, promised happiness through freedom and equality, often find only confusion, resentment, and fatigue, each searching for something they cannot fully articulate, each disappointed by what they find. Gender itself has become a battlefield of uncertainty. As society tries to erase ancient distinctions, identity fractures, roles that once provided meaning and clarity are now treated as burdens to be shed. But in shedding them, many find not liberation, but disorientation, a silent hunger for something solid, something real, something true. Through Schopenhauer's eyes, these fractures are not mysterious. They are not the failures of individuals, nor the shortcomings of modern ideals. They are the inevitable rebellion of nature against illusions imposed by culture. When primal forces are denied, they do not vanish. They distort, they corrupt, they turn on the very structures meant to contain them. Attempts to engineer sameness between fundamentally different beings do not heal the divide, they widen it. Not because men and women are enemies, but because pretending their instincts are identical invites betrayal of their deepest selves. The emotional landscape we inhabit now, the broken families, the silent despair, the endless search for meaning, was the battlefield Schopenhauer foresaw. A world where the mind insists on ideals, the body was never built to obey. A world where we chase equality in design, but find only chaos in outcome. The fallout of ignoring nature is not freedom. It is confusion, resentment, and a growing sense of something irretrievably lost. And the more we deny the true shape of who we are, the more violently that shape asserts itself, hidden, wounded, and unforgiving. True love was never meant to be perfect understanding. It was never about two identical halves finding completion in each other. It was, and perhaps always will be, the difficult art of accepting difference without trying to erase it. Men and women are not fragments of a single broken whole. They are complete forces in their own right, shaped by different instincts, different needs, different burdens, not opposing enemies, but parallel truths, not mirrors, but constellations, shining separately, intersecting only for a moment before continuing on their own paths. Harmony, if it can exist at all, is not born from forcing sameness. It grows from the patient, painful work of recognizing difference and choosing to stay anyway, choosing to love, not the fantasy, but the reality, not the idealized image, but the flawed and beautiful truth of another soul, shaped by forces beyond either's control. Schopenhauer did not offer hope. He stripped it away. He believed that to see clearly was more valuable than to dream beautifully. And maybe, in a world intoxicated by illusions and sedated by comforting lies, clarity itself is an act of radical love. The uncomfortable truth remains. We are not who we wish we were. We are who nature made us to be, and only by facing that truth, without bitterness, without resentment, without denial, can we hope to find a connection not built on illusion, but on something far rarer, something real.